The Chevy Silverado is an icon in the American South. On the cheaper end of the spectrum, it's a symbol of rural work culture, people making an honest living out in the country. On the expensive end, it's a status symbol. It's got the massive engine and workhorse potential, but it's what the big boss drives on the asphalt, not what the blue-collar folks drive on the dirt. Its big chrome grille screams wealth, and that's the whole idea.
This is the 2024 Chevy Silverado High Country, and I'm Alanis King. Somebody on here the other day told me I need to wear more hats, so howdy partner, welcome to Texas. Not nearly enough of these leave the pavement, and all too often, all this torque is to get my butt to the grocery store. Let's go for a drive, and stick around for the end of this video to get this Silverado's full report card.
Chevy's been putting trucks on the road since 1918, which is more than 100 years. There have been tons of Chevy trucks since the early 1900s, but I'd have you sitting here for an hour if we went through all of them. So instead, let's skip to the late 1990s, when the Silverado came around. The Silverado debuted for the 1999 model year, and there were a few special Silverados to come, including the SS, which was a performance truck with 345 horsepower, and the Silverado Hybrid, which in 2004 got an EPA-rated 17 miles per gallon combined in two-wheel drive form and 16 combined with four-wheel drive. The second-generation Silverado arrived for 2007, and reviewers loved it. As someone who grew up in Texas during this era of the Silverado, this is what I think of when I think of a Chevy truck. That big silver grille just screams Texas truck to me. The third Silverado generation debuted for 2014, and the current truck is from the fourth generation, which has been around since 2019. During this generation, we got the Silverado EV, because electric trucks are kind of a hot thing right now. It debuted in 2022.
This, of course, is not a Silverado EV. We're guzzling gas over here. And over here, we are guzzling Apex coffee roasters. Now, when you wake up in the morning and you gotta go tend to the cattle and mend the fences, why on earth would you be drinking coffee from the grocery store? That's not fresh, that's been sitting on the shelf. You need a small batch roaster like Apex. And if you want 15% off your order, use code Alanis at checkout.
There's a mind-boggling amount of choices to make when you configure and price a new Silverado. Do you want one row of seats or two? Do you want a long bed, a standard one, or a short one? Do you want two-wheel drive or four? Once all of those decisions are made, we have to choose trims.
My loaner Silverado is a crew cab, four-wheel drive, short bed, so we're gonna go through specifications for that specific truck. We have to narrow it down somehow, and there are still 9 trims in this specification.
The bottom 6 trims come standard with Chevy's Turbo Max engine, which is a turbocharged 4-cylinder that makes 310 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque. This is the engine I drove recently in the Colorado ZR2 Bison off-roader, and we'll link that review on the screen. From there, different trims let you upgrade to a bunch of different engines, like a V8 or a 3-liter Duramax turbo diesel. The base crew cab 4-wheel drive short bed Silverado is called the WT. It starts at $48,000 American dollars. And these are the more workhorse looking trucks with the black grille and rubberized surfaces. The trims after that with the standard Turbo Max engine are the Custom Trail Boss, the LT, the RST, and the LT Trail Boss. These different trucks give you various convenience, off-road, and performance features, depending on which flavor you choose. They also come with an 8-speed automatic transmission as standard. The next 2 trims are the LTZ and the High Country with my big chrome grills. They have 10-speed automatics and 5.3-liter V8s as standard, and they have an optional 6.2-liter V8 and an optional 3-liter Duramax turbo diesel. The High Country starts at $68,000, and the most expensive base price on a Silverado trim is the ZR2, which starts at $72,000 and comes standard with the 3-liter Duramax turbo diesel and a 10-speed auto. The ZR2 is the big boy off-roader.
That brings us to this truck, the 2024 Silverado High Country, the big, luxe, chrome-grilled Silverado. This truck is spec'd with a 6.2-liter Ecotec 3 V8, which makes 420 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. All of that goes through a 10-speed automatic transmission to all 4 wheels. And this truck gets an EPA estimated 15 miles per gallon in the city, 20 on the highway, and 17 combined. The total price of this truck is exactly $78,000. That includes the $2,300 engine upgrade to the 6.2-liter, a $900 suspension package with adaptive ride control, a $400 active exhaust, and a $7,100 High Country Premium 2 package that includes General Motors Super Cruise hands-free driving technology, a power sunroof, all-weather floor liners, 22-inch wheels with chrome inserts, all-season tires, a rear camera mirror, and a bunch of other things. Super Cruise is included for 3 years, and after that, it becomes a subscription service for $25 a month. But we'll talk about that later. But before we talk more about this Silverado, I have a message directly for Chevrolet. Are you listening? A couple of weeks ago, I had the Chevy Colorado ZR2 Bison, and we had a giant spare tire in the rear of the truck that blocked the entire rear window. So I went, this is a Chevy. It's gonna have a rear camera mirror, just like the Corvette does, just like the Silverado does. And it didn't. It just had a normal rearview mirror. Now, Chevy, tell me why I need a camera in my rearview mirror right here on my Silverado when nothing is blocking my back window, and I don't need it on a ZR2 Bison. Come on, we gotta add this, Chevy. Please, I'm begging you. But back to the Silverado. I feel like it's important to talk about this truck as a cultural symbol. I've lived in Texas my entire life, and when I'm driving this, I feel like I fit in. It's what everyone here drives. The sheer size of this thing, plus the powerful, easygoing acceleration, just screams Southern luxury. I open this door, and I step up onto my power running boards, and I take in all this chrome. And I feel like a wealthy Texan, like someone who owns a car dealership and got veneers that are a few shades too white. But at the same time, I feel like most other people here, like someone who buys this truck as a status symbol instead of what it's actually capable of. To drive it to the grocery store or a restaurant feels like I'm gloating, but everyone else is too. Another fascinating thing about this truck, especially living in Texas, is the size of it. I live in a normal patio home with a 2-car garage, and I measured it compared to my garage. And this truck can squeeze in height-wise, but length-wise, you have about 2 inches on either side. And I just don't understand how you could possibly park it in the garage, which is why I see most people parking their nice trucks in the driveway even during hailstorms. I feel like you would have to set up a tennis ball system with a tennis ball hanging from the ceiling to tell you exactly when to stop. But even that would not be enough. You would have to pad the wall in your garage so that if you overshot it by 1 inch and you smacked the nose on the wall, you wouldn't make a dent in the wall or a scratch on your nose. Speaking of fitting, we've made it to my favorite part of any car review. How many Atlantises can fit in this Chevy Silverado High Country's truck bed? And while we're getting in, I just want to say, to open this tailgate is a button, and that is so weird to me. If I bought a truck, I would want to pull a handle. Anyway, holy cow. This is huge. Get our feet all the way down, head in. Oh my goodness. You could lay 3 Atlantises across and stack 2 high. This is a solid 6 Atlantises with the tailgate up. Welcome inside the 2024 Chevy Silverado High Country. And when you first get in this truck, there's a big startup graphic on the screen that has all these trees and a truck driving through them, and it's so peaceful. And that's exactly what this truck is meant to be. It's supposed to be laid back and luxurious and peaceful, and you feel that when you're in here. There is so much space above me, to the side of me, in front of me. I have this giant armrest between me and the passenger. It's huge. There's so much space. You lift it up and there is so much room in here that it's divided into compartments. It is impressive. But then you look more closely and you go, there are a couple of things in here that aren't the best, like these sun visors. They look like pieces of cardboard wrapped in fabric. This is a $78,000 truck. Why do I have yellow lights in my sun visor? Ugh. And then you open the sunroof and it's not panoramic, and it's also just kind of a bad material. Honestly, it just doesn't feel high-end like this truck is meant to be. A lot of other stuff in here does. I don't know why these two things really don't. I really like the wood accents and the dark leathers in here. I think they pair together nicely and they don't just scream at you. I do think we could use more patterns on the inside of this truck just to bring my eye around it more. But overall, it's a peaceful interior. It's a nice place to be. And I'm gonna admit something here. I really like the 2 giant screens. I know people say they don't like big dashboard screens, but I kind of do, especially because I'm an Apple CarPlay user. I don't use anything but Apple CarPlay in a vehicle. And when I have my Apple set up on a giant screen, it's just indulgent, I'm telling you. And if you wondered, Alanis, what are the similarities between a Chevy Silverado High Country and a C7 Corvette? I'd tell you, 1, they're both made by Chevy, and 2, they both have secret compartments. Whoa, look at that. No one's gonna know that exists because there's a little button hiding under this air vent right here, and this just looks like a solid part of the dashboard. So if you ever need to hide something from somebody, put it right there and don't show them this video. Let's do a final little run through of the materials in the front seat of this truck and, talk about what's good and what's not so good. I love the thick, soft leathers that we have on this armrest, on the seats, on the top of the dashboard. I like the wood right here. This is a little cheaper plastic, right? It's not the best. And also, we have a couple of areas where this truck just feels like a base model, right? Like right here, glove box, not so great. And on the door cards, we have that same material, which is just plastic. Come on, Chevy, we gotta replace that. We are now in the back seat of the Silverado, where there is so much room that I'm gonna try to lay on the floor to show you exactly how much space you have. Here we go. Ready? Ready? Oh, made it. Oh. Wow. Look at that. I mean, you can literally just lay here. It's comfortable. There's so much space. Now that we're back upright, I want to show you, we don't have our own climate control in the rear seats, but we do have seat heaters for both people on each side. We have our own 2 little vents right here and charging ports. And also back here, you're in stadium seating. So we're seated up a little higher than the people in front of us, which I love. It's one of my favorite features of new vehicles with rear seats. Oh, I love when there are stadium seats. But sometimes when you have stadium seats, you're higher, so your head's actually closer to the roof. And when you have adults back here, that can be bad. So I'm in here and I notice this roof goes up. So if you're taller, you get an extra, I would say that's like 2.5 to 3 inches of headroom. I'm 5'8.5", and I have plenty of space right here. And it's just nice to see an automaker go, we gave them stadium seating, so they're up higher, so we need to give them a higher roof line. Two things I really do not like back here. One, this light right here is so cheap looking and feeling. And two, when I start messing with that light because it's cheap looking and feeling, I realize that you can move this roof around a lot. It has a lot of movement. And that to me is not a good sign, because I think about 15 years from now, is this gonna be sagging? I am not gonna be happy. It's time to drive the 2024 Chevy Silverado High Country. And as soon as you get in this truck, you're like, wow, this is huge. I'm super far off the ground. This truck is super wide. My hood is gigantic. You're looking at the car in front of you, and there was a car in front of me earlier. It was a Chevy Malibu, and the bumper sticker said Hot Mess Express on it. And I was just looking down at the Hot Mess Express because the Hot Mess Express was so much smaller than me. But the interesting thing about the size of this vehicle is that when the Silverado debuted, the initial reviews were like, yeah, this truck is weirdly agile for the size. And that's what you feel inside of here. The power delivery is great. I mean, it's not anything that's just gonna make your stomach drop, but you hit the gas and it just feels so strong, right? The powerful, confident delivery, it feels nice. And when you turn this wheel, it's so responsive. The steering just goes where you want it to go. Is the turning radius tight? No, it is not. But you feel weirdly agile in such a large truck. It just does stuff well and confidently, and it makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you bought something that, of course, cost $80,000, but something that does things well. And like, yeah, I'm going to driving into my Chevy dealership that I own, and I am the big boss. I got all this power, and it just goes right on the pavement. The only thing that's a little weird driving experience-wise in this Silverado is that the brake pedal is squishy. You press the brake pedal and it just kind of feels like you're pressing on a Ziploc bag of Jell-O. Yeah, Ziploc bag of Jell-O. It's very, very squishy. There's not a lot there, so I don't love that, but I really do love the rest of how this truck drives. It's great. Which brings me to probably the longest part of this driving segment, which is Super Cruise. I'm gonna turn it on and then tell you about it. So to turn on Super Cruise, you turn on your adaptive cruise control. So I press cruise control, I set a speed at 70, I'm gonna set it at 70, and we're gonna go 70 miles per hour. And when I have my cruise control on, it's on adaptive, I get this little white steering wheel in my driver instrument cluster, which means you are allowed to turn on Super Cruise. So I press the steering wheel icon, which is Super Cruise, and we are super cruising. What is Super Cruise, you might ask? Super Cruise is GM's hands-free driving technology. General Motors has mapped out about 400,000 miles of road in the US and Canada to use Super Cruise on. And that sounds like a lot of road, but in reality, in my area, there are only about 3 roads with Super Cruise on them, and they're all major roads or highways. So 400,000 sounds like a lot, but it's actually just really going to be the major roads and highways around you. And there's a web page where you can go look up the area you're in, and the Super Cruise roads will light up in green, just like my steering wheel has a green bar on it right now, and my steering wheel icon is green because that is the color of Super Cruise, I guess. Now, Super Cruise is different from other lane keep and adaptive cruise control technologies in that it will not remind me to put my hands on the wheel to say, hello, I'm still paying attention, car. And typically when you have more basic lane keep assist and adaptive cruise control, it works great. The car will just follow the lanes, right? But it is not as high tech as Super Cruise, and it's not hands-free like Super Cruise. It will tell you once every minute, 90 seconds, hey, grab the wheel, tell me you're there. Super Cruise will not. You can just sit here with one arm on the door card and one arm on the center console and chill indefinitely, right? Now, the one thing you have to do with Super Cruise on is keep your eyes on the road. There's an eye tracker that is just above the center of the steering wheel. So right where you honk, look up, there's a little eye tracker right there that follows my eyes whether I'm wearing sunglasses or not. And if my eyes divert from the road for a period of time that it deems to be too much, it will vibrate my seat and it will start blinking red, and the truck will deactivate Super Cruise because I am not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. That includes looking up, looking down, looking to the side, looking to the other side, looking at my phone. You cannot do that. This truck will deactivate Super Cruise. So that little sensor that's right there, you can actually block it from seeing your eyes and it will deactivate Super Cruise because it cannot see your eyes. So I'm looking at the road right now and the sensor is down here. If I put my hand in front of that sensor cannot see my eyes. So it is about to start blinking at me and telling me, oh, blinking, blinking, blinking. It's getting mad at me. Super Cruise is disengaging because I blocked the eye sensor from seeing my eyes despite the fact that I was looking at the road. Anyway, let me turn Super Cruise back on. I'm sorry, Super Cruise. I know you think I'm a bad person, but I'm not. I'm just tricking you. Now you might ask, okay, Alanis, you have hands-free driving technology. That's awesome. But how much does that really mean if you still have to stare at the road the whole time? And I would say that means a lot, because when you go on a long road trip, like Americans love to do, it's fatiguing to just hold the wheel and turn it a little and then turn it again. And you get to the end of the day and you are drained. Whereas if you just kind of have to watch it like a TV show and react if something bad happens in that TV show, it's a lot less draining. I use assistance technology all the time when I drive long distances, and it is fantastic. It's not even this good, and it keeps you from getting fatigued so much more than having your hands on the wheel the entire time. So it really does make a difference than having to just work the pedals and work the wheel in just minute increments all the time. This really, really does make you less tired at the end of the day, and it's great if you're going on long trips. Downside of Super Cruise, this is the biggest downside I would say, is that it is free for your first 3 years of owning the new vehicle, and after that, it is a subscription service. Oh no! So it's $25 a month after that initial 3 years. And I am not big on subscriptions. I know that that is the way of life, but it is not my way of life. I don't enjoy it. So if I had a Super Cruise equipped vehicle, what I would be doing is if I really, really needed it, let's say I'm driving 20 hours, I'm going to pay for Super Cruise just that 1 month, because the use case is so limited day to day, unless your entire job is driving on major highways from city to city, that I would not want to pay $25 a month for it until every road is mapped out and you can just use it to go anywhere. But even then, I don't think it's worth it. I think Super Cruise is for long drives where you can get fatigued. I really enjoy the Silverado. I know we talk as a society about the enlargement of American vehicles and how they continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and the problems that come with that. And yeah, I get it. There are a lot of problems with giant vehicles, pedestrian safety, other vehicles on the road. Just when one massive object hits a much smaller object, that's not great. But when you're in a large vehicle like this and you have so much room to spread out and you have Super Cruise running, you feel so relaxed and you really do feel like the king of your space. And I think that's fantastic. Now that we've driven the 2024 Chevy Silverado High Country, it's time to give it a grade. Welcome to Alanis's report card. The exterior on this truck gets an A-. I believe it does exactly what it's supposed to do, which communicates that you're luxurious, but you also like to work hard sometimes. I'm only docking it points because I don't love the really chrome wheels with the lower profile tires, even though I'm sure there's a big audience for that. The interior gets a B. I love the size of it and the technology inside, but some of the materials are just not up to it, and it's also just not visually as interesting as I would like. The performance on this car gets an A-. I love the power delivery on the Silverado, but the brake pedal is a little squishy. The value, I'm gonna give it a B. It's a $78,000 truck, which $78,000 is a lot of money. But I feel like we live in an era where in America, you look at a truck and you assume it's $100,000. So to be 80 is not that bad. Would I take this Silverado on a road trip? Absolutely, I would. I would just plan to spend a lot of money on gas. And overall, this truck gets a B+. It is good, but there are some areas where we could improve things.
The Chevy Silverado has a lot of identities, just like society does. You can buy it as a workhorse or a grocery getter. And at least in Texas, people won't judge you either way. It's in the fabric of our culture down here in the southern United States. And if you want to fit in, it can help you.
I'm not one for fitting in, but I did enjoy it this week. After all, everybody in the South needs a horse. Some of them are just prettier than others.